Everybody, welcome back to the Tarot of Stephen King's It, in which I take a look through the journey of the tarot as it applies to the universe that we explore in the novel It, which was published in 1986. Uh, Now, the minor arcana represents the elements, and each suit has a different element applied to it. So wands are the element of fire and they represent action. Cups are the element of water and they represent emotions. Pentacles are the element of earth and they represent material things. And finally, swords represent the element of air and intellectual things and conflicts within uh, sort of your conflicting ideas. Okay, so the Ace of Swords is the beginning of an idea and a beginning of a conflict. And this card is best represented in the scene where Ben decides not to let Henry copy his test. And then this leads to Henry pursuing Ben and the other losers all throughout the summer vacation. It's the very beginning of uh, what ends up blowing up into something much larger. The Two of Swords is a stalemate, sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I think the best representation of this card's energy is the scene where Edward Corcoran, he's gotten a bad report card, so he doesn't want to go home because his piece of crap stepfather's there, and he's probably going to get a beating because of his grades. But the only other thing he can do is stay and sleep in the park, which leaves him vulnerable. And unfortunately, it does lead to it finding him and getting him. The Three of Swords is the betrayal card. In this card, it's best represented by the scene where Eddie leaves his wife Myra to return to Derry, and he leaves in the middle of the night. He just kind of steals away, and she has to drive Al Pacino the next day. And note, it's never stated what happens to Myra in the book. But if you watch my video, Driving Al Pacino, I wrote a fan fiction story. I know what happens to Myra. Anyway, she's left all alone with her anxiety, and it's just it's this moment of harsh, harsh betrayal. And it's, of course, going to turn to grief when Eddie doesn't return. The Four of Swords is the rest and recuperation card, and there are a couple of points in the book where this happens. One of them is when Mike stays in the hospital after Henry's attack. Another one is when Bill and Audra stay at Mike's house with Bill caring for Audra. But I think the scene in the book that best represents the Four of Swords is the scene. It's really just the period of downtime after the showdown at the house on Niebolt Street. And there's even a line that says, "Not much happened for the next 2 weeks." So they're regathering. They've had a conflict. They've barely gotten away, and now they have to regroup and rest. The Five of Swords is intimidation and abuse, and this card is represented by Henry's gang breaking Eddie's arm, and that's retaliation for the rock fight. Um, it's there's a sort of double edged sword, so to speak, because it's a bit of a victory for Eddie because he realizes a lot of things about himself and that he's been so well protected for his whole life, but hey, he didn't die when he got his arm broken. But then Sonia does have a meltdown and try to force Eddie not to see his friends anymore. The Six of Swords, Beverly. Sorry, I had to look that up. The Six of Swords is the card representing leaving difficult situations. In the scene where Beverly leaves her husband Tom and goes to Derry, and the only rest she gets is on the plane. This mirrors the situation when she left home at 18, sneaking out with a packed suitcase. The Seven of Swords represents deception and manipulation. The Sonia Kasprak tricking Eddie his whole life, giving him fake asthma medicine. embodies the energy of this card. And then Mr. Keen finally tells him about it, and Eddie just feels tricked and betrayed. The Eight of Swords is the feeling trapped. In this card, this card's best embodied by the scene where Beverly has a confrontation with her father the day the losers go down into the sewers. She is literally trapped here, and he is trying to unalive her, and he's under its influence, which makes the whole scene quite scary. The Nine of Swords represents fear and doubt, and it's often unfounded, but in this case, Bill, he's right in the middle of his parents' grief after Georgie's death, and he's so depressed he's physically ill. And one of the particularly poignant moments in the book is when his parents are in different rooms, and Bill is sitting there all by himself and thinking, why are they crying so far apart? And then Ten of Swords is your breaking point, and that's the point where Henry unalives his father, and the day that he and Victor and Belch chase the losers into the sewer, his mind is just shattered. He's not thinking at all anymore. The Page of Swords represents distrust, curiosity, and a quest for knowledge. And this is best embodied by Victor Chris. He's increasingly detached throughout the story. The Knight of Swords. Now, when it's upright, it's bold action and decisiveness, but the utter cruelty and not thinking consequences is purely embodied by Henry Bowers. The Queen of Swords represents truth, clarity, and honest communication. She's a very rational card, but when reversed in her most negative, she is your twisted matriarch, and that's why I picked Sonia Kasprak for this card. The King of Swords represents intellect and clear decisions and authority, and that sense of order is represented by the police officer who checks up on the kids every now and again, Officer Nell. Thanks for watching.